What's up, everybody? It's Dino Talk Sports, and welcome to Mock Draft 1.0 with trades. I am so excited to get into the meat of draft season. People say it's baseball season right now. I heavily disagree. It's draft season, and we've got a fun one for you today. If you're not aware, the New York Jets, there have been sources that said they are trying to trade up to the number one overall pick, trading with the Tennessee Titans to go and potentially get a quarterback of their choice. Now, we're going to get into this, start this draft. I will say the trade compensation is a tad ridiculous. They're reporting that they'd give up a first, a next year's first, and 3 second-round picks over the next 3 years. And that for a quarterback who, either of the two, Shedeur or Cam, I don't have a true first-round grade on. They are day 2 guys for me. That's rich. But to have some fun, we're going to say they think one of them is their guy. We're going to make this trade. Boom, the New York Jets have the first overall pick, and which quarterback are they going to choose? Now, I see the argument for Shedeur. I think he's the more pro-ready of the two. I think he can come in, and if you're looking to compete right now, he gives you a better shot of competing right now rather than Ward. But Ward just has the much higher upside. He has the potential to be a truly elite quarterback in the NFL, and I don't think Shedeur really has that. I could see him be... Maybe he can be elite someday. I see a more realistic scenario for Sanders being like an average guy in the NFL. I'm not a huge fan. Cam Ward at least has the potential to be something elite. So I think the Jets would go up there and grab Cam Ward. Now we get to the Browns, and here's going to be our second trade of the day. But it doesn't actually have to do with the second overall pick. This has to do with the Packers pick of pick 23 because Myles Garrett has requested a trade. And if you're looking at a team that desperately needs pass rush help, you're staring right at the Green Bay Packers. I mean, it was bad. It was a bad watch last year. Lucas Van Ness, Rashawn Gary very much disappointed me. I thought that pass rush would be way more formidable in that scheme. They need to go out and get an X-factor guy. They're in one of the toughest divisions in football. It's only going to get tougher. Go and get the best defensive player in the league with a pick you're probably drafting an edge rusher with anyway because you need edge help that bad. So we're going to do this trade. Doesn't change the fact that the Browns now have the second overall pick, but it does change the needs because now the Browns desperately need a pass rusher as well. And last I checked, the best player in this draft happens to be a pass rusher, and that is Penn State's Abdul Carter. Nothing I can say can add much more substance to what you guys already know about him. Again, I think he's the best player in the draft. He was the best edge rusher in college football in his first year ever playing full-time edge rusher. He's an athletic freak. The sky's the limit. You'd love to come away with Abdul Carter, plus another first-round pick. Then we get to the Giants. Here's where we're going to have some fun. They're taking a quarterback, and they're taking Shedeur Sanders. I think Cam Ward is the Giants guy through and through, but if Cam Ward ends up going 1, Shedeur Sanders is a nice consolation prize. They're not that far off for me. I just don't love the ceiling with Sanders, but you may not need a super high ceiling in this system. When Brian Dable's system, we saw Daniel Jones put together a career year and get himself a nice contract. I think Shedeur Sanders can be better than Daniel Jones if given the proper development. Now, this Giants offensive line still isn't that great, but Shedeur's coming from a team that didn't have a great offensive line. He'll be used to that. Hopefully, Dable can fix some of the issues that he has mechanically, some of the issues that he has getting the ball out too late, but the arm talent's there, the accuracy is there with Sanders. This is better than anything they've had QB situation-wise in the last couple years, and Dable's going to be happy to have him. That's all I'll say. Then we get to the Patriots. And for the Patriots, I was really on taking Hunter or McMillan for the longest time. But man, you do need an offensive line in front of Drake May. That line is so bad. And I think Will Campbell is probably the best overall lineman in this draft, especially if you're thinking about putting him on the interior. And luckily for the Pats, or unluckily, they need help everywhere. You can put Will Campbell wherever the hell you want, and you're a happy camper. I think building around the trenches and building around your quarterback, Mike Vrabel probably agrees. I think this is a great pick for the Patriots. Then we get to the Jaguars. And Mason Graham is always the pick here, but I do think it's going to be another Michigan man. And I do think it's going to be Will Johnson. Will Johnson, to me, is right up there with Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter for the best overall players in this draft. Now, you might ask me, why Johnson over Hunter? Well, because the Jags secondary might just be the worst in football. It's really bad. And Will Johnson is, in my opinion, by far the best corner in this draft. Travis Hunter's second, but I think there's a pretty clear gap between him and Will Johnson. Will Johnson is just incredible. He looks like Pat Surtain. He's one of the better cornerback prospects I've ever scouted. This would be a home run selection for this Jaguars team. I love it. Then we get to the Raiders, and here they take Travis Hunter. And it's funny. In my opinion, I think Travis Hunter should be playing receiver at the NFL level. I think it'd be a waste of him not to. But whether the Raiders want him to play receiver or they want him to play corner, which I still think he'll be extraordinarily great at, while also flashlighting, or whatever the word is, on offense, they need both. So you're filling both needs here. Travis Hunter is an awesome player, in discussion for the best player in this draft. You're happy as hell if you're a Raiders fan. Then we get to the Titans again. And here is where I think them building out of the trenches is going to make sense. There's not a quarterback they should take here. I'm not in love with the offensive lineman right here outside of Will Campbell. Corner, I don't really think they need all that bad, even though they listed it as a need. I like edge rusher here, and the edge rusher I like is Mykel Williams out of Georgia. I mean, this kid, kind of similar to the, how should I say this, Jalon Walker kind of pick. Height, weight, speed, just demon. This kid is incredible. What do they have him listed at right here? He's 6'5", 265 pounds, ridiculously long arms, young player and athletic as all hell. He's a plus run defender immediately, and he has a long ways to go, I think, to develop as a pass rusher, but even so, with his strength, with his raw athleticism, he's able to bull rush guys. He's got speed to bend around the edge. I like his bend overall. Just a really fascinating player, and one of my favorite overall players in this entire draft. You need edge rush help in Tennessee, he's going to provide that. Then we get to the Panthers, and they're happy as hell. They got Mason Graham to fall right into their laps. Mason Graham, might be the most surefire player in this draft. I know I'm not saying he's one of the best, like Johnson, like Hunter, like Carter, but I also have no doubt Mason Graham's going to be good. Just a really, really fantastic player. Great run defender. He's a fantastic pass rusher, but more of a finesse guy despite his size, despite his strength in the run game. He's not that actually good at bull rushing, at using his power, but he's so fast, light on his feet, great with his hands. He's going to be a fantastic complement next to Derrick Brown in Carolina. And I was considering edge rusher here because the edge rush group is so bad, but I think there's some edge guys you can get later in this draft. Just go get the surefire talent in Mason Graham. I love it. Then we get to the Saints, and this team can draft literally any position they want to. Because they need all of them. This team just isn't all that talented. They're not going to be good next year. I think they're in the business of taking one of the best players available. And that guy to me is the edge rusher out of Marshall, Mike Green. I think Mike Green is a bona fide top 10 pick. I would be so surprised if he made it out of there. He kind of reminds you a bit of Will Anderson. He's got that same body type, that same twitch, that same strength. I'm a big fan of Mike Green, and he's just kind of BPA at this point. And you need somebody to come in at edge rusher after Cam Jordan's gone. Carl Granderson is really good, but Mike Green can be a 1A guy someday, in my opinion. So I think this is a fantastic pick for the Saints. Then we get to the Bears. And if you're the Bears, you were sitting here thinking, man, I really wanted Will Campbell. But for me, I think they're going to end up taking Kelvin Banks if he's off the board. Kelvin Banks, like Campbell, I think can play either tackle or interior lineman. And when it comes to the Bears, you need both of those potentially. I'd much rather try out Braxton Jones for a year and put Banks in and on the interior. But either way, Kelvin Banks, great player, fantastic run blocker. You know Ben Johnson's going to love that. Has ways to go as a pass protector, but that's all right. And then we get to the 49ers, where they have one of my favorite picks in this whole draft, and that's going to be offensive tackle out of Ohio State, Josh Simmons. I think Josh Simmons is the best offensive lineman, period, in this draft. Had he not gotten injured, I think he'd be a bona fide top 5 pick, without a doubt. But that injury is scary. But you can just take Simmons. You can ease him into the lineup if you so want to. Shit, you don't have to play him year one. He can be your Trent Williams replacement. You're not going to be, with this roster, I can't believe the 49ers are picking with the 11th overall pick. They're not going to get a pick like this again. So just go get talent. And Josh Simmons has that. When Trent Williams retires, he can move to left tackle, and I think he can be a franchise guy for you. Now, moving to the Cowboys, I think they need interior defensive linemen, and one of those guys to fall to them is Walter Nolen. I think Walter Nolen also has a chance of being a top 10 guy, or he should be. He is just a disruptor is the word you have to use for him. Freakishly athletic, great with his hands, fantastic strength, quick off the snap, good feet. I mean, he is just fantastic. And I know they've swung and missed on some interior defensive linemen as of late, the Cowboys have, but I feel way better about Walter Nolen than any of the other guys they've drafted recently, and they desperately need somebody in the interior. Then we get to the Dolphins, and I love this fit of Armand Membou. He is listed as a tackle. I think he is a plug-and-play guard. I think he should be playing guard. I'm not saying a team can't try him out at tackle. I just see him much more as an interior offensive lineman, and there is not a team that needs interior offensive linemen more than the Miami Dolphins. I've been screaming it for the last 3 years. I think this is a fantastic fit. Scheme-wise, I would be so happy if we selected him, and there's the other options on the board. If you don't know, I'm a Dolphins fan. Malaki Starks would make sense. Maybe another offensive lineman, but Armand Membou seems like the guy. Then we get to the Colts, and this is super easy for me. They go and take Tyler Warren. Now, he's not my top tight end. It's going to be Colston Loveland as my top tight end, but Warren, I think, just fits this team to a T. Great run blocker, can do everything. Play in line at tight end, can play in the slot. He's a big target for Anthony Richardson to throw to and gain trust with. He's a Swiss Army knife on the offense. He can play in the backfield if you needed him to. Just a super talented player that I think Shane Steichen will take full advantage of. Then we get to the Atlanta Falcons, and I saw that, what's his name? I don't know where he is. Sometimes he's listed as a linebacker. Sometimes he's listed as a edge. Where is he? He's got to be listed as a linebacker, right? Jalon Walker, thank you. I didn't see it at first. Jalon Walker is selected by the Falcons, and I saw him going as high as 8 in Daniel Jeremiah's new mock draft. I disagree. I don't think he is a top 10 player in this draft by any stretch, but Jalon Walker is a super intriguing prospect. He's a pass rush specialist, and why not keep him in Georgia, going to Atlanta, on a team that desperately needs pass rush help off the edge, you know? Yes, they selected Penix, and that's good. It seems like it might end up being a really good pick, but there's a reason everybody was mocking edge rusher to them last year. They need it badly, and I think Jalon Walker can really provide some juice to a room that desperately needs it. Then we get to the Cardinals. This is super easy for me. They're going to go Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle out of Michigan. Now, he's much more of a nose tackle type player rather than the 3 tech that maybe Mason Graham is. But, I mean, Cardinals just need defensive line help in general, and he's going to help really stymie opposing run games. I think he is a talented pass rusher for his size. The Cardinals are just looking for talent along the defensive line. They desperately need it, and they get some with Kenneth Grant. Then we get to the Bengals. Let me take a sip of water real quick. Then we get to the Bengals. And for me, I think they're going to take Malaki Starks. Malaki Starks is a blue chip safety prospect. But he's not just a safety. I think he can play nickel corner at a very, very high level at the NFL level as well. Think Brian Branch, think Kyle Hamilton to a degree. They all play nickel to some degree, and I think Malaki Starks can do that same thing. Wherever you put him on the defense, he is going to make this defense better overall. And for a team that was losing games by, even though they scored 40 points, that's a big deal. Then we get to the Seahawks, and here's where we're going to see another trade. I think this would be very fun. The Los Angeles Chargers trade the 22nd overall pick along with some other picks. Again, not getting into the trade details. We'll figure that out at a later date. They trade up, leapfrogging a couple teams, finding that this is the best spot for this to happen. They trade up to 18, and they go ahead and draft Ashton Jeanty. This team wants to pound the rock. Dobbins is hitting free agency. Not that they want to keep him or anything. I think they're going to let him go. They go and get one of the best overall players in this draft, the best running back in an absolutely loaded running back class, and for a team, again, that wants to pound the rock over and over again, despite the fact that they have Justin Herbert, they're saying, hey, we want to, if Jim Harbaugh could give the ball to a guy 30 times a game, he would. Jeanty is a guy you can give the ball 30 times a game and find a ton of success. I love this fit. Then we get to the Bucs, and they're going to draft Jahdae Barron, corner out of Texas. Whether you want him to play outside corner, nickel corner, personally for me, I think he should play much more of the nickel corner role. I think he'd be fantastic there. He is a fit for this Bucs team. They're picking for need. They need a DB. He is that guy. Uber talented. Could go way higher than 19. Then we get to the Broncos. And something I really love here is the fit of Colston Loveland, the tight end out of Michigan. He is my number one tight end in this entire draft. I think he's a special talent. I'm not saying he's Brock Bowers. He kind of gives me Brock Bowers light vibe, though. Brock Bowers light vibes, though. I think he can play inline at tight end. He can play slot receiver. I think you could put him out wide at receiver. He is so fast, so smooth for a guy his size, so strong. I think he can play that big slot role that Sean Payton loves in his offense. I love this fit. Love it. Both the Chargers and the Broncos, two of my favorite picks in this whole draft. And there's one more really favorite pick coming up very soon. But before we get to that, the Steelers, they're going to go ahead and get Tet McMillan. And I know they kind of have different roles, like similar roles between him and George Pickens, two guys, really good jump ball guys. I think Tedero McMillan is probably a better overall route runner for sure, though. And I think Tedero McMillan can be an overall better receiver, on top of the fact that George Pickens just isn't super reliable at this point. He's a great jump ball guy, but that's kind of his whole shtick at this point, on top of being a head case. He might get suspended sometime soon. You need more wide receiver help. Tet falling to 21 is great value. There's a world where if you told me he was the best overall receiver in this draft, I'm not going to sit here and look at you like you're crazy. That's not at all a bad thing to say. Then we get to the Seahawks. And now we get to, I think, my favorite pick of this whole draft. That is Jihaad Campbell, the linebacker out of Alabama. My God, this guy is so uber talented. I think he's a top 15 player in this draft. And you might be saying, well, Dino, why in the world would the Seahawks pick a defender here, especially a linebacker? They need so much help along the offensive line. And I don't disagree. But I think I need you to visualize this. Mike Macdonald, when he was with the Ravens, he had some great defenses, and then he traded for Roquan Smith. Roquan Smith almost immediately made that defense the best in football. Like, having an X-factor linebacker is so important in this scheme, and I think Jihaad Campbell is a green dot X-factor guy from day one. So talented, and I think he takes the Seahawks defense from really, really good, great, to the best in football. I love this fit. Then we get to the Browns and their second first-round pick. And one of the guys that keeps popping up to me is Josh Conerly. I really like this. Josh Conerly, really talented tackle prospect. He can also play interior if you need him to, but in this case, I think he's going to slide out to left tackle because they're most likely letting Jedrick Wills walk in free agency, and for good reason. I don't think he's all that good. I like Conerly a lot, especially as a pass protector day one, and I think he's got a little work to do as a run blocker, which is important in this scheme, but just having a guy who can come in and immediately protect whoever you have playing quarterback back there is a big deal, and I really like this fit. Then we get to the Vikings, and I think in Daniel Jeremiah's most recent mock draft, they ended up taking a running back, which I'm not going to do. I'm going to take one of my, again, a lot of favorite fits. A lot of these picks for me are just fits that I think overall work the best. And this fit is just fantastic. Azareye'h Thomas out of Florida State, the cornerback. Big press man coverage guy, a Brian Flores DB. Think like Xavier Howard. And this will allow Flores to go back to that more cover zero, all-out blitz, press man coverage style that he was so known for with the Dolphins. He's kind of had to dial that back a bit, and to a good degree, his defenses have been great, but he's had to dial that back a bit because he hasn't had the DBs to run that. He's gone much more back into zone and disguise coverages. I think he will run a lot more cover zero with Azareye'h Thomas on the field. He's a perfect fit, really talented corner. I love it. Then we get to the Texans, and part of me really wanted to go receiver here, considering there's some really good receivers on the board, but that interior offensive line is just bad. And I know I said the same thing about the Seahawks, and they took somebody else, but I just think this fit is about as perfect as it can get. I don't see a perfect fit at receiver personally, and for me, they're going to end up taking Tyler Booker out of Alabama. Just really solid interior offensive lineman. I don't know how great he's going to be at the NFL level, but I do know he's better than what they were dealing with last year, at least in my opinion. Then we get to the Rams, and we're going to have yet another trade. The Kansas City Chiefs leapfrogging teams like the Ravens, like the Commanders. Again, don't worry about the trade details. We're going to force this trade. Boom. They come up, and they're going to take offensive tackle Ariante Ursery. Now, this might be a bit early for them, but they know they desperately need to address their left tackle situation. And, I didn't realize I'm going to go back to full screen real quick. My bad. Now we'll get back to this. They desperately need to address their left tackle situation. And Ursery is a bit of a project, so maybe it's not in their best interest to go with a project in round one, but there's just so much talent behind him. They need to try something out. Whether it's at left tackle, whether it's at right tackle, they need to just throw stuff at the wall and see if it sticks. And I think Ursery has a pretty good chance of sticking in this league. If you haven't watched his tape against Abdul Carter, I highly recommend it. Fantastic watch. There's a lot of talent there. Then we get to the Ravens, who I think Ursery would have been in the cards for them, but they're fine. One of my takes coming off this offseason that some people disagreed with is I think the Ravens edge group is weak sauce. I think it's not very good at all for the most part. I think it's very much disguised by the scheme. And I think they need to go edge. And the edge I love in this situation is Shamar Stewart. He is also a Trayvon Walker, even more so than Mykel Williams, Trayvon Walker-esque player. He doesn't have sack production. But height, weight, speed to the max. This guy is huge. This guy is 6'6", 290 pounds, athletic as all hell, is a good, powerful pass rusher, gives like Jared Verse kind of vibes. And above all else, he comes in as a plus run defender immediately. Fantastic run defender. And I love that kind of fit in this Ravens scheme. They like those hard-nosed, big, powerful edge rushers. He is that. Then we get to the Lions. And if I'm a Lion, I'm thinking I need to replace my right guard spot. And that guy to me is Grey Zabel. I think there's a conversation that Grey Zabel's the best overall interior lineman in this draft, even over Booker, over a guy like, where is he? Sorry. Armand Membou. But he falls down to 28, and the Lions are happy about it. He had a dominant Senior Bowl, technically sound player, strong individual. He's tackle-sized, but he just doesn't have the arm length to play tackle at the NFL level, in my opinion. I think he's plug and play at right guard for this Lions team. Then we get to the Commanders, and I really love the fit of Emeka Egbuka here. Whether he plays in the slot or on the outside, he is very flexible in those regards. He reminds me a bit of JSN with the Seahawks now, but he's primarily a slot guy. I think Egbuka's got a bit more juice to be a threat on the outside. But this Commanders team is going to add another receiver opposite of Terry McLaurin, another Ohio State guy. He's going to get to develop chemistry with Jaden Daniels and be a reliable target for him for the foreseeable future. I really love this pick. Then we get to the Bills, and it feels like everybody picks Derrick Harmon for the Bills, and I am everybody. It's a fantastic fit. Really talented. Not project. I think he can. Because I think his floor is pretty high. But his ceiling as a player is also extremely high. Very athletic, very big. And the Bills just desperately need interior threats, in my opinion. I think Ed Oliver's good, primarily as a pass rusher. But I don't know if they have that true alpha run-stopping defensive tackle. I think Darren Harmon can be that guy with added pass rushing help. I really love this fit. There's a reason why everybody picks him there. Then we get to the Rams. And I think they're going to go DB. And one of my favorite DBs in this draft is Ben Morrison. I think there's some people who say Ben Morrison is a first-round pick. I disagree. Ben Morrison is fantastic. If it wasn't for that injury he suffered, I think he's a top 20 guy. But the Rams luck out, get an extremely talented player in a secondary that wants to be injected with some talent right now. And yeah. Then we get to the Eagles. And this is where I think they draft a guy named James Pierce. I'm not a big James Pierce guy in the slightest. I actually, even outside of the character concerns that have popped up about him, I just don't love his tape. It's very weird watch. He's so bendy, so fast, so quick. One of the quickest steps you'll ever see. But he plays with next to no power. He's not a great run defender. He is very stiff despite having that bend. He doesn't know how to use his hands very well. I think he's much more of a project than some people let on, including the fact that you've got to put on weight to play at the NFL level, in my opinion. You know who's really good at taking these players and turning them into great ones? The Philadelphia Eagles. They constantly do it. Here we go. Grading your draft. I'm going to exit out a full screen, and we can zoom out and take a look at this whole thing together. There we go. That is Mock Draft 1.0 with trades. Please, in the comments, let me know what you thought about it. Let me know what picks you agree with, what picks you might make differently. Keep in mind, the mock drafts are almost always not as crazy as the actual draft. So if you think there's some crazy picks and scenarios, you're in for a treat when the actual draft comes around. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to like, subscribe, let me know in the comments. It keeps me making videos here on YouTube that I want to do it so much more, and I'd like to start putting out a mock draft every week or so. So if you'd like that, let me know. Thank you all for watching, and bye-bye.